your brain is thinking all the time without you putting effort into thinking. And if your brain is primarily thinking negatively, that means you are involuntarily thinking negatively every single day. Do you know how bad that is for everything that has to do with you? For your entire mind, body, and soul. That is incredibly dangerous, incredibly bad for you, incredibly unhealthy, and it's a source of a massive amount of dis-ease that we have within inside of us.
Life is but a dream. Life is but a dream. Life is but a dream. Yeah.
Praise the sun. Feel that warmth, feel that light washing over you. All of your fears, your stress, anxiety, they just wash away as the sun bathes you with the glorious light. As you can see, I'm on one right now. So I had the delightful opportunity to have a San Pedro or Huachuma ceremony. San Pedro is a cactus. It is known as the grandfather spirit of the spiritual realm, whereas ayahuasca is known as the grandmother spirit. The primary active chemical compound in San Pedro is mescaline, whereas ayahuasca is DMT. So, I have never taken San Pedro before, and I've done ayahuasca a few times, maybe like 5 times or so. And I was told that San Pedro is less visual, less intense, less. Ayahuasca has the tendency to just open your closet and say, "Look at all of your stuff that you need to work on. Let's get to work." And you're diving deep in the rigorous and dense work of it. And San Pedro Huachuma, grandfather, I like this analogy by a woman there that I met. If it was more like fishing, it's more like you're talking about your issues, but you're not so engrossed and enthralled in them that it's like, oh my God, it's a bit more gentle. It's a bit more softer approach to it. And just all around less intense, which 100% was my experience. 100% was what I experienced. And I'm very grateful for that because while I can take I can take the intensity of some of the psychedelics and stuff. I mean, I haven't. I would say that I understand that there's levels to it. There's Bufo, which is 5-MeO DMT, which I understand is like the most intense psychedelic, which I haven't done yet. We'll talk about that later because it's crazy how that came up, but haven't done that yet. And I know that there's various degrees of how intense ayahuasca is, and I feel like my most intense experience was the very first time I've taken it, and since then it hasn't been quite as intense. So I know the primary thing that you do when you get to these ceremonies is that you need to surrender. You need to let go. And when I say that is a process, that is a tremendous process that takes so much time. I remember the first time I started getting into these spiritual ceremonies. I don't think I ever thought that it would be like a one and done thing, but I just thought that I could go, and fix myself and be okay. And while it was a tremendous amount of healing, the amount of work, the amount of times that you need to get some of these concepts and teachings and healings into your system, it's not it could never be a one and done. It could never be just one time and now you're good, you're all fixed up, because going through life you simply accumulate so much negative energy, so much trauma, so much baggage, just simply existing on this planet. And we as human beings forget things so quickly. We will learn something that's absolutely mind blowing. You'll learn something like, oh my God, I never thought of something like that. And then a month later, it's gone from your brain. It's just gone. We have to put certain things in practice, and that includes healing. So that means going to these ceremonies over and over again, getting the repetition in, getting the reps in. It's much like going to the gym. You're never going to go to the gym and go, one time and, okay, now I got a six pack. Wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't that be fantastic? You do you do one sit up and you're like, whoa, look at that. No, it doesn't work like that, and that's very much how these spiritual ceremonies are. You need to do it again and again and again. And it's like chipping away at whatever it is that you're trying to get at. It's like slowly healing and mending whatever it is that's causing you dis-ease. We gotta look at that word dis-ease, because it's very primary to a lot of the things that are wrong with us. So these ceremonies, I love them because you really get to understand what your issues are and how to work on them. And the ceremonies are such a small part of what it takes to heal yourself and become a better person. The work, 98% of the work, is everything you do after the ceremony. The ceremony is such a small part, which is crazy because the ceremonies, they feel forever. They're so intense, and you just get, there's just, sometimes they're just so, they feel so much. Sometimes they feel overwhelming, and you're like, when will this end? Grandfather's not like that, but I'm just kind of laying the foundation for what I'm going to talk about. So it's like, sometimes it's like, oh my God, this is never going to end. This is so intense. I can't do this. Everything after the ceremony is the work. And the work is the hardest part. The work is everything you do afterwards. It's meditating every day. It's eating healthy. It's having moments in life where you can observe your mind, observe it from a detached standpoint, in which you're not getting swept in the autonomous thinking that is constantly taking place inside of your brain. Constantly your mind is thinking involuntarily, and people have not grasped this understanding. Your brain is thinking all the time without you putting effort into thinking. And if your brain is primarily thinking negatively, that means, let's break this down. That means you are involuntarily thinking negatively every single day. Do you know how bad that is for everything that has to do with you? For your entire mind, body, and soul. That is incredibly dangerous, incredibly bad for you, incredibly unhealthy, and it's a source of a massive amount of dis-ease that we have within inside of us. And some people might not even be aware of this. By all means, if you don't think this is that you haven't come to this conclusion, go meditate. Go do it today. Go sit down and try not to think. You can't do it, can you? You can't do it because your brain is constantly processing data, information. And a lot of times, if you've been through negative experiences, if you have PTSD inside of you, if you have trauma inside of you, your brain is thinking negatively about everything because it's constantly in fight or flight mode trying to protect itself. You have to do the work. You have to meditate. You have to eat healthy. You have to exercise. You have to have these moments where you can view your mind as a projector. You're watching stories on the wall, on a screen, and you are the one who are observing them. You're not in the story. You're watching the story. You need to get that inside of your brain and ground that principle inside of you, ground that teaching, understanding inside of you every single day. You need to practice this every single day. If you don't, you will suffer. You will suffer. I promise you, you will suffer. Effortlessly, you will suffer. At some point in time, you will suffer if you do not do this practice. And you don't have to live life like that. You don't have to live life in a way in which you're just suffering all the time. And that's what you learn when you go to these ceremonies. That's what you learn when you go sit with the grandfather spirit, the grandmother spirit. When you work with these psychedelics, you get to understand, like, wow, a lot of my issues are because of something that's happened in the past or something that's happening in my mind that's causing me to suffer mentally, which is causing me to suffer emotionally. And emotional pain is the worst pain because that's energy and motion. That's what you feel. And nobody wants to feel bad. Nobody wants to feel negative things. Nobody wants to feel all of that stuff, right? But the only way to do that is to do the work, to do the practice, to do the grounding principles, to do the meditation principles, to eat right, to watch what you eat, because what you eat contains thought forms, and those thought forms get inside your body and they control the way that you think. I'm telling you guys, do the work. So, San Pedro, my God. Now we can finally talk about San Pedro. Let me look at the time. Now we can finally talk about San Pedro. My rant is over. My God, is it subtle? Is it subtle? It's like you don't even realize that you've taken something. Now, mind you, I know the doses vary, and I'm not exactly sure how much we took, so can't say, but we took enough for us to feel the effect of what it is. And it's just like stillness, presence, peace. Everything's going to be all right. And that's something that I always wish I could feel with mushrooms without a lot of the turbulence that I feel in the body, a lot of the sometimes uncomfortableness that you can feel in the body. Now, mind you, I understand that this is also dis-ease, but sometimes it's also your biological effect towards the fungus body that you just consume, because mushrooms is a fungus. So the way that it interacts with your body, it feels kind of like a poison. So it kind of has that sedating kind of drunk effect to it. Whereas this cactus, it really achieved an effect that I really enjoyed. I San Pedro is effortless detachment. San Pedro is effortless peace. San Pedro is effortless stillness. And people who are trying to level up and get to that next level in life, when I say the words effortless stillness, your blinkers in your head should be going off, because stillness is everything. The present moment is everything, because nothing exists outside of the present moment. The only moment that will always exist is right now. Right now. And whenever you watching this, it'll be right now. And whenever you think about this in the future, it'll be right now. Right now is the only moment that exists. So the fact that your mind is either in the past, present, or future is distracting, because the only place you need to be right now is right here, right now, in the present moment. And what takes you out of the present moment is your thinking, is your mind, is the ruminating and the anxiousness and the worry about what's gonna happen in the future, and you know, if you have issues with guilt and like, oh my God, I can't believe I acted that way. Or if you're the victim, you have something that's happened to you. I can't believe this person did this to me. Or you could have issues with money, like, oh my God, how am I going to pay for this? You could have issues with health. You're like, oh my God, you know, if it's definitely, it's like, oh my God, I might die from this. Be present and objectively watch these things as they are a story on the wall. And a lot of these things may be true. This might have happened, that might have happened. The future may be uncertain, but you don't have to suffer. You don't have to suffer. Suffering is in the mind. Suffering is what causes you to feel bad constantly. Suffering is what causes that dis-ease inside of you, which formulates and turns into things like cancer. You start developing tumors. You start developing all types of bodily issues because of this dis-ease that lives inside of you. You don't have to get to that point where your mind is so mentally ill that you're having a biological effect in your body, which is causing you more sickness. Be still. Be in the present moment. Do the work. It is not easy, But nothing on this planet has been easy. If you have not come to that conclusion at your age, let me tell you, nothing about any of this is easy. There is war happening in the Middle East, straight up genocide that we're seeing right in front of us. There's terrible things happening all the time. And yet, you can be in stillness. You don't have to live in that chaos. And it's not about pretending that it doesn't exist or it's not real. It's understanding that life is full of ups and downs, good things, bad things, love and hate. That's how it's been. And yet, you always have the choice in how you feel. And that's one of the most important principles. You always have a choice. You don't have to involuntarily be enraged or be sad or depressed involuntarily constantly throughout your life, being miserable at all times about whatever you feel that you don't have or whatever could be, or you don't have to feel like that. You don't. You have a choice, and a choice is always what we strive to feel like we have because we want control over our lives. And there is control. There are things that you can do to make yourself happy. There are things that you can have to create that sense of accomplishment or joy and peace inside of you. But there also is a unlimited amount of things that are beyond your control. Beyond your control. There are so many things in this world, on this planet, that you cannot control, that they have nothing. Some of these things have nothing to do with you. You have no control over them, and yet they bring you pain, and yet they bring you psychological pain, and yet they bring you misery, and yet they bring you depression. You don't have to live life like that, but you do have to do the work, and the work is not easy. But if you're expecting it to be easy, then you got, I don't know what to say to you other than it's not easy. Like, the alternative is you not doing the work, and if you're not doing the work, the reality that you have right now, if you're not happy, that's the result of you not doing the work. And you don't have the opportunity to be ignorant about it anymore because you're watching this video and you've gotten to the, I don't know how long it'll be when I edit it, but you've been here for a while. So you don't have any more excuses. You're going to do the work, right? All right, praise the sun. We're getting somewhere. So San Pedro is effortless detachment. And that's one of the more core principles that I've learned when I did this. Sorry, I'm not editing that out. So San Pedro is effortless detachment. And it's like I was sitting by the fire and I felt this connection towards nature. And I wish it was a deeper, more intensified connection, but it's okay. I felt good enough, This is the me talk. I'm ready to go full ape mode. I'm like, I want to turn to a monkey, but no. I just remember sitting by the fire and just watching the fire, and the fire just looked so beautiful. And I just, the hue from the fire was so intense and bright. And I was just like, man, this is gorgeous. And then that thought left and I didn't chase it. And then it was emptiness. It was stillness. It was quiet. And for me, whose mind is very active all the time, which is why I went there, because I wasn't doing the work. Me, who's been through all these ceremonies, wasn't doing the work, wasn't doing the practices that I know I need to be doing to create that abundance in my life, to have that stability, to have that fundamental love in my life. Why? Many reasons. Sadness, unworthiness, worrying about the future, worrying about the past, things that debilitate you and stop you from even doing the work because of how dense those energies are. They weigh on your soul to the point where you can't even get to the point where you can just sit in a chair and meditate because your energy and vibrations are weighing so low. You're carrying this baggage on you, on your back this whole time. So you can't even get to the point where you're doing the work because you feel so slow and sluggish and you're stuck in the past, worried about the future, never being present. Effortless stillness feels like understanding that a lot of your dis-ease, your uncomfortableness is literally coming from your mind. Your mind, which is always running, always trying to control what it cannot control, always trying to seek safety and comfort in illusions because illusions feel so comfortable. Illusions feel so comfortable because they're not real. They're not real. And sometimes the truth is painful. Sometimes the truth hurts so much. But when I say the truth sets you free, live in the truth because the truth is the only thing that is real. The truth is the only thing that is real. We cannot live our lives being comfortable, being complacent, living in lies because they're so comfortable, because of we're afraid of the repercussions of this and that and that and this. Live in the truth so that you know how to live with the truth, as uncomfortable as it is, as uncomfortable that it will always be. Live in the truth. Sitting by the fire. Grandfather said, you get swept away inside of all of the mental baggage, all of the stories, all of the concoctions that your mind is creating. You get swept away inside of all of it. And then I saw this image of grandfather giving me this key. And it's like, you already have this, you just dropped it. So use it every day. Use it. And it was so profound because that's how amazing a lot of these experiences can be. You don't have to have a massive amount of DMT or psilocybin pumped into your brain and getting shot into outer space, because 98% of the work is everything that you're going to do after that experience. And if you didn't learn what you needed to from that experience, you're going to end up doing it 1,000 times more until you get it right. And I can tell you that I've come to understand that the fundamental dis-ease is the mind. It is your mind. And if you do not heal and take care of your mind, it will take care of you in the worst way possible. In the worst way possible. Practice stillness, practice detachment from your mind. Because I know myself, my mind, if I identify with a lot of those stories and things going on, I'd be miserable. A lot of times my mind has nothing good to say. And then you think that's a reflection of you because you judge the contents of your mind because you identify with your mind because you think that is you. But it's not. It's involuntary thinking. It's involuntary thinking. It's not you. It is involuntary thinking. It's involuntary data running cycles in your mind, running a software program in your mind. Involuntarily. I keep saying this because you need to ground it, this principle in your mind. It's involuntary. Stop identifying with it. All right, I'm starting to feel like a broken record here. So, San Pedro is not a intense psychedelic experience. Once again, the dosage that I take did not feel like that. I know peyote could be a little different, but this is not peyote. This is a different cactus, same chemical compound, but different degrees of intensity, I assume. So wasn't all that intense and very subtle, very gentle, and very grounding to just be able to just not think, to just be able to be still. Man, is that amazing? Because I know that there are so many people who are just they're suffering because their minds are just driving them crazy. And to just take a break from that for one day, just take a break from that. My God. I know, and this is getting personal and vulnerable, but that's what I'm here for. I don't have too much identity that to the fact where I have to, I can't tell you guys certain things, but a lot of my sadness has come from how much I work. I spend a great deal of time just working and grinding and trying to get better at what I do. And I spend most of my time by myself or with my son. And I don't have a spiritual community like that. So to be able to take a break from technology, which is another issue, my God, technology just, it's made us so connected, but yet so distant from each other. We're so connected, yet so distant from each other that it doesn't make any sense. But you don't realize that a lot of your misery comes from how secluded and alone that you are being in this box all day and not connecting with other human beings. And I don't mean like at work. At work is not connecting with other human beings. Okay. There's a lot of people who go to work and they're miserable. They don't like their coworkers. They don't like their bosses. They don't like the people who come into their job, whatever. That's not connecting with people. I mean, actually connecting with people who are like-minded individuals who have love and compassion in their hearts. People who are also trying to better themselves. People who are not holding judgment in their hearts, but they're holding peace and understanding and love. My God, imagine being around people like that. And I was around those people when I went to the ceremony, and it feels amazing. It's always so powerful to go to a ceremony and nobody but the shaman, and by the end of the ceremony, you know a bit of piece of every single person in that room because there's so much sharing about why you're there and your experiences and all of those things that you start to become one with these people, complete strangers. My God, when I tell you that spiritual ceremonies is what people are missing in their lives, if you go back throughout history and look how cultures were all connected, when they say that it takes a village to raise a child, it's true. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to raise a human being because we are social creatures and we belong together. We need to spend time together to help each other heal. And yet, we have so much seclusion. We have so much aloneness. We spend so much time secluded and alone. And when I say it's good for you to experience those things, to work on yourself, it is, but not all the time. Not all the time. So it's just mind blowing going to a ceremony and knowing nobody and then feel like you know them, feel like you have a piece of them inside you in your heart, leaving an impression on them and them leaving an impression on you. It's amazing. It's simply amazing. So I love San Pedro. I would highly recommend it. I want to do it very much periodically throughout my life. And I really want to integrate it because I feel more intelligent. My heart feels more open. I feel more understanding. I feel more grounded. Like I feel more energized. Like I went to the gym today and I felt like a lot of energy inside of me. Like it feels, that's what plant medicine is supposed to feel like. That's what it's supposed to feel like it does. It's supposed to feel like it's healing to you. It's supposed to feel like it's healed you. It's given you something, that you can help integrate inside of you that you can carry with you throughout life. And maybe you don't ever need it again, or maybe you do. But I couldn't recommend it enough, especially for people who need that more gentle experience, that more subtle and calm experience, because ayahuasca can be very, very difficult. If you need that, if you're suffering from PTSD or trauma and you're trying to really help get to a point where you can understand these things from a detached point of view, because that's honestly what you really need, is that you have a story that's running cycles in your mind, and every time it comes up, it causes you psychological pain, which causes you emotional pain, which makes you feel like you're trapped and stuck in that moment. And to have San Pedro come and ground you and observe, because I still had that story periodically pop up in my mind, but I had such a detached level of awareness from that story that was on the wall that it didn't affect me. Like I could see it and like, okay, and then it disappeared. And then maybe it came up again, and then it disappeared. And that's how it should be. It shouldn't be pop up and you like, oh my God, I can't deal with this. Let me go do some drugs, or let me go eat, or let me go, distract myself on social media, or go, party with someone, or do whatever else that people do to numb themselves. You don't have to live like that, because those are illusions. And what I say, illusions feel so comfortable, and yet what? They're not real. So I believe that's all I had to say. Oh yeah, and lastly, Bufo kept coming up. Yeah, so we were sitting by the fireplace and people were talking about Bufo, and I'm like, "What's Bufo?" And then it was like, "Oh, it's that other DMT that comes from the toad." And I was like, "Oh," and they were like, "You should do it." And I'm like, maybe. And then it kept coming up. So I have this rule of three things, whereas like I know my guides are talking to me if I hear something 3 times consecutively, and yeah. So, anyways, not saying I will or won't do it. It's I like to push myself, and I have been wanting to do a different version of DMT, but we'll see about that. We'll see, because I understand that is quite intense. It's not something you just suddenly wake up and you're like, yeah, let's do some bufo. Like that stuff is next level. So shout out to everybody that I met there. Shout out to Giselle, Margot, Magdalena, Peter, all the amazing people. I love you guys so much. And if y'all watching this, we gotta set something up and stay close as a community, because humans need each other. Praise the sun, and thank you all for watching. I will talk to you later.